Howdy folks, Sepper here, and I'm bringing you another episode of the Event Horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anybody with an internet connection and a YouTube app, welcome to the next contest in the Event Horizon. So here we have the map is set up. You can tell it's a little bit different setup than the last one, but you never know what's going to happen in the Event Horizon. So you can see right there, there's the white team's base. We have a couple of modern platters. It looks like we've got a lot of forest terrain. We've got some water. We've got some swamp here. We've got some deep water over here. There's the black base over there. We've got a lot more water, a lot of swamps. This is a colonial platter. And then that is an ancient platter right there. Not a lot going on that one. But this time, as per setup rules, each team got to choose one platter, and then the other two platters were random. So I want to say that Team White chose this platter right here. And then Team Black chose this platter right here. This one was random, and that one was random. So there you can see the map. So let's get on with the teams. So we will start with Team White. And the way you figure out what team is white and what team is black is you look at that number right there in the lower right-hand corner of the card. That is your respect. And the team with the highest respect is the team with the person who has the highest respect is the team that gets to be Team White. So here we have Tat and Big Hair, the rock star. So I'm not going to go into as deep an explanation as to why someone chose somebody else as their avatar, as a prime, as Tat is the prime, and then his avatar is Big Hair. So, but you can kind of see that Big Hair is a rock star. He's got some pretty terrible stats, except for that respect value. But what's extremely important about Big Hair, and what makes him pretty awesome, is all this stuff right down here. When he's on a modern space, which are these blue platters here, you can see this one, and you can see this one here. When he's on a modern space, if he has a henchman in his space, enemy characters cannot attack him. His adventures are never worse than a pass. And on card payment adventures, he instead draws a card and passes the challenge. So he doesn't have to pay a card, he gets a card. He starts out with one common card, and he starts out with one henchman. All right, so here's his henchman, and here's his common card. All right, let me flip over to the back real quick. I'm not going to read that, but you can put it on pause and kind of read it yourself. But Tat was a rock and roll drummer, and someday he'd like to play in Giant Stadium. That's why I picked Big Hair. Next up is Codger. Let's see if that light is... All right, next up is Codger, and she chose Robin Hood. Robin Hood's, he's got some pretty good stats. Got a lot of blue on there. He's only, his only really bad stat is point. His move cost is 1 through woods. He ignores woods for his ranged attacks, and he gains an additional +2 stealth when in the woods. With a bow, Hood gains an additional +2 to hit and +2 to range. If carrying a revealed bow, Hood gains +2 on adventures involving throw. So, so there you have it. He's really good in the woods, and that's another reason why I chose some of these platters, is because there's a lot of wooded terrain on there. All right, there's the back of the cards. let's move on to the next person on Team White. Here we have Chalky. Chalky chose Ace Cannon, the quarterback. And if we look at Ace's stats, he's pretty average, but he does have a very high throw, and he's got a pretty good respect too. He is +3 range with thrown weapons and grenade weapons. So if we can get some of those into his hands, he can throw that stuff a lot farther. You would expect that much from a quarterback. And there's their descriptions on the back. So Chalky was a professional soccer player. Soccer's called football in some countries. Ace Cannon's a football player. Boom, there you go. He also describes himself as a jock, so that's the other reason that Chalky chose Ace Cannon, the quarterback. Next up we have Sandy, and Syriac, the warrior race, is who she chose to be her avatar in the Event Horizon. So if you look at Syriac's stats, he's got a very good melee and a very good power. He's also very strong. Most of his other stats are average or below average. He suffers a -2 penalty on all adventure challenges except those involving melee or point. So he's not a very good adventurer, so we are going to try to keep him out of the labyrinths unless a melee or point one shows up, and then he might try that. But he looks like he's going to be one of those guys. Syriac is just going to be running around beating people up. All right, there you got their bios. Sandy looked like she was a pretty nice person, so why would she pick this alien? You know, maybe she's got some unresolved issues. Next up, we have Candy. Candy and Sandy. Okay. So Candy chose Perendor the Ranger. Perendor is very good with thrown weapons, and he has very good stealth. His move cost is 1 in the woods and rough, so that stuff is not going to hinder him whatsoever. I mean, he's a ranger, right? He should be good walking through the woods. All right, there are their bios. Candy, I mean, if you take time to look at those, she seems kind of like the wild side. Rangers live out in the wild. All right, there you go. And then, last on Team White, we have Crunchbird, and she chose Aaron Shrike, the Recon. So, Aaron's got some good stats and aim, very good stealth, and she's got a very high intellect. So for Aaron's ranged attack, ignore all enemy stealth bonuses due to special abilities, treasure, and invisibility. The target gains 1 less stealth bonus for each space of terrain. So for example, normally you would get a stealth bonus of +2 for the woods. They only get a +1 now. So she can see through all that nonsense, and she can hit them pretty good. So Aaron Shrike is the only other avatar on the team that has starting cards next to Big Hair. And Aaron Shrike starts out with a Sumerian Chariot. So her movement speed is a 7, but her movement speed is already a 7. So this Sumerian Chariot is not as good in her hands as it could be with somebody else. So maybe we could look to trade that. All right, there you got the bios on the back. So Crunch was a shoe store assistant manager, and that's about it. I mean, there's really no reason why she would pick Lieutenant Aaron Shrike, but they do look quite a lot alike. Just imagine a short haircut on her, boom, done. All right, these are the 2 cards that go into Team White's base. Each base gets 1 common card and 1 secret card to start. And it looks like the common card was the Gnome Spike, which is a pretty good melee weapon. So maybe Syriac might go ahead and grab that. We'll see. But this Mystic Music Machine is a monument. And this card is going to be potentially amazing in Big Hair's hands. So we'll see how that works out. Chances are that Mystic Music Machine is going to get set up somewhere over there. Probably somewhere over here. We'll see what happens though. All right, this is the first contestant on Team Black. We've got Snookums, and she chose Undenbog, the amphibian, as her avatar. Undenbog has some pretty average stats. He's not very smart, and he doesn't have a lot of respect. But his move cost is 1 in swamps, water, deep water, can remain in deep water, gains +2 wits, react, stealth, and melee hit in such spaces. Ignore swamp for bog's ranged attacks. Does not need to stop when in an enemy space if that space is swamp or water. That's why this platter got chosen, because of Undenbog. So this is swamp. All this terrain here is swamp, and we have all that water. So Undenbog is probably going to do a lot of hanging out on that platter. And there you go. There's what we have for Snookums. I think really the only reason Snookum chose Undenbog is because the name. Her name is Snookums and his name is Undenbog. There you have it. Oh, and I forgot to show Undenbog started with 1 card, and there it is right there. Next up is Stevie, and he chose Stephen Decatur, the Swashbuckler. Stephen Decatur has very good point, and he has very good react. He can move through, but not end movement in deep water at a move cost of 2. His move cost in water is 1. So again, this platter over here is going to be no problem for Stephen Decatur. He's very good with powder pistols and very good with, what kind of swords are those? So powder pistols and blades. So we need to get one of those into his hands. And then let's look to the back. So Stevie chose Stephen Decatur because they share the same first name. Oh, and he's also very adventurous. All right, we've got Killer, and she chose Damon Raven the Assassin. Is there any reason why she chose the Assassin? Because her nickname is the Killer. So the Assassin has very good point. Most of his other stats are average or below average. He gains +5 to hit with energy pistols, auto pistols, energy rifles, and auto rifles. Gains +5 on adventures involving aim or point. So he really needs to get some of those weapons into his hands. He starts out with 2 cards. He starts out with Hammer's Badge, which basically his power is equal to his honor rating. His honor rating is 2. So his honor rating is 2, so that means his power is 2. So they don't change. So these badges, they automatically get revealed, so everybody sees them. And there's only certain ways to get rid of them, which is extremely difficult. So this badge doesn't hurt him, but if he had a very high honor, then that would help him out. If his honor was lower, then his power would be lower. And then his elite card is a 357 Magnum. Has that symbol. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that symbol, but at least he does have a ranged weapon. And then here's their bios on the back. So Killer also chose the Assassin because an unusual fact, she has 2 different colored eyes. Damon Raven has 2 different colored eyes. Next up we have Cud, and he chose Coach Quinn, the coach. Coach is very good with throw. He has a very high honor and a very high respect. The coach also has a mental ability, allies within 3 aura, within 3 hexes. Gain +1 on adventures. Enemies within 3 aura or 3 hexes suffer -1 on adventures. Does not apply to Quinn himself, so the coach he's a natural born leader. Looks kind of like Mike Ditka. That's why he chose him. And there you have it. Oh, and also Cud wanted to be in the NHL. So that's the other reason that he chose the coach. The coach started with 1 card, so there you have it. So if he can get to Lith's Lair, which is right here, he passes an honor test, which he has a pretty high honor. He could possibly get some pretty good stuff. Next we have Winnie the Pooh, and she chose the Scarlet Vixen. Scarlet Vixen is pretty stealthy, has some pretty average stats all the way across the board, but she gains +2 on all adventure challenges in the enemy team base, including entering the gates. Enemies cannot op-fire at Vixen when she is in the enemy team base, so she is going to be, if we can get her into Team White's base, she's going to be a very big pain in the butt. So she also starts out with a badge. This is revealed to everybody, so this one is not secret. The other cards are secret. So her intellect is equal to her honor. Her honor is 3. Her intellect is 6. So this is a bad card for her. So her intellect, she actually got dumber by having this Sage's badge. She also starts out with, it looks like we have the Ellison Palm Pirate. Looks like a little handgun. And then she gets Shock and Awe. So if the condition below is true at the time that you have this card, reveal the card and set it aside. It gives you 1 achievement point. So if she can have 6 of 7 sites in the enemy base destroyed at the same time, then she gets that. She's good at destroying stuff in the enemy base. So she might actually be able to do that. And then lastly we have Doc, and he chose the Weinstein Brothers. The Weinstein Brothers have some pretty abysmal stats for the most part, but they have a 3 damage, and then they have an 8 intellect. They can use all cards, regardless of strength, intellect, and gain the bonus with all of them. So they are really good when they have cards in their hand, because they can use everything. Doesn't matter what it is and what the requirements are. They get to use it. And then here in red, this is bad. When receiving any card, check luck. On a 0 to 1, the brothers take 1 damage and the treasure is discarded. Do not check luck for the starting card. So they got some freebies in their hands. Let's see what they got. Oh, and they also have no card limit too, so that's pretty good. So they got a blowgun. They got an Army Surgeon's Kit. So free action, owner heals 4 health, and they can also get to use that. So they can spread heal among everybody in their space. So if we got a lot of people hurt, get them to the Weinstein Brothers and they can heal them. And then lastly, we have this, which is a Sentinel. And basically it acts kind of like, it's kind of like a turret. You just set it up and it sits there. It's kind of like a henchman that can't move. So if we can get this set up somewhere to cause a big problem for the white team, it would be pretty good. So maybe in front of their base, or in front of one of the labyrinths that are, or in one of the labyrinths that they're really going after. That Sting Whip is really going to cause problems. And let's take a look at the back. All right, so there you have it. And I almost forgot to show you the 2 cards that are in Team Black's base. So we've got a dueling pistol, and we've got a damper blade. And let's see. This guy right here, Stephen Decatur, he can use both of those really well. So, but he can only take half the cards in the base, so he can only take one or the other. He'll probably choose the damper blade. But we'll see how everything turns out. The next step is to start dismissing players onto the battlefield and see how this whole thing pans out. So there you have it. The teams have been set. The board has been set. We are ready for the next match, match number 2 of the Event Horizon. Stay tuned, everybody.